we are rather fast approaching what could be a catalyst for Starfield, and amongst the dust that has settled across the universe after the aftermath of the explosive release of Starfield that rather unfortunately came to a crashing burn, we see a glimmer of light flickering in the distance as we're fast approaching shattered space, and with that the concept of vehicles in Starfield. Now Bethesda have been ultra mouse quiet in regards to anything related to this expansion other than the trailer that we received over a month ago, and I suspect they are biding their time, waiting for the moment to jumpstart an epic marketing campaign, and this potential leak that has huge impact for the future of Starfield tends to lead to that validation of thought, and with this we have a huge piece of news that in hindsight may prove to be complete baloney or a historical leak at Bethesda. So we're going to take a look at this. We're just going to have some gameplay in the background as well as little bits of the details that we have popping up. So I hope you get something out of this. If you do, consider liking, subscribing. Thank you very much. So let's have a look at this leak. Woo! And we have some rather huge news for Starfield. And one of the pinnacle things that will draw some of the poor souls back to Starfield in its endless expanse is going to be vehicles. Now this is unconfirmed, but this has been leaked apparently from a 4chan user, which even includes a picture. Now I would not give this a ton of credence just yet. However, where I would give this a lot of consideration is that I don't know if you remember, but before Starfield released, a lot of the different leaks about Starfield before it released came from 4chan, and many of those turned out to be true. So that is one thing to ponder on or to consider. I mean, some of those things that were leaked from 4chan was how big and expansive the universe was, which proved to be right. The presence of the boundary, which also proved to be right. If you don't know what the boundary one was, it's when all that news came out about where you saw the player running and they'd hit a boundary. It was everywhere. So you can see we do have some valid examples of where leaks have come from 4chan and actually come true. So with everything we're going to look at, keep that in mind. There could be a lot of validity to this leak as well. But at the same time, we're very skeptical. You'd think 4chan is the deep, dark depths of despair in terms of good information, but you'd definitely be surprised at sometimes how accurate it can be. Doesn't mean that in this case it's for real, but anyway, let's keep going. But it would make some good marketing sense to incorporate a vehicle before Starfield expansion. And according to the leaker, that is exactly what we're to expect. Anywhere within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we could potentially get in vehicles. Based off this rather speculative leak. Why would that be the case? Well, included in this link is some of the information regarding vehicles, detailing that in the next big update, Starfield will be getting vehicles. This will drive in a lot of excitement and eyes to Starfield, adding to the marketing campaign of launching a Shattered Space expansion in the coming months. There is going to be a couple variations. Now, I do expect these to be paid for, or creations. At least one of them might be free, but do expect them to be paid for. However, this kind of framework is going to allow modders to take this and run with it. All the heavy lifting done by Bethesda will mean we will see some crazy mods, even possibly horses. Who knows how far this will go. Now, the leaker claims that there are going to be 2 variations. However, note that the NPCs will not be able to drive the ATVs at the point of launch. Now, will they ever be able to? I'm sure with mods over time. I don't suspect that Bethesda will have that as something in their list to do. Apparently, the vehicles are going to have their own weapons, which are going to scale with a perk system, which could be potentially a new perk tree. As first one is laser, one allowing a laser mode that allows for a bullet time, and another one being a launcher. This is all sounding way too good to be true, but hey, it is possible, and apparently this is a leak. Of course, you got to think of all the different terrains and possibilities of scenarios that this vehicle is going to be presented with. I'm highly skeptical on how well this will be implemented. For example, running over NPCs, mines, getting stuck in pool, striking objects. How is he going to manage the insane amount of variation of terrain? What kind of planets will we be able to use it on? So many questions lie, but it's still going to give us the framework at the very minimum, then be transposed into very genius mods. Now, this next part does make a lot of logical sense. So how is it going to work in terms of flying to planet? Well, it's going to spawn outside your ship when you land. To me, that makes perfect sense. That's an easy workaround. So it's not going to be something you'll have on your ship. It's going to be something that spawns next to it, ready to access as soon as you land. Leaker also does sort of advertise, expect many creations around this functionality of vehicles, potentially adding weapons, new perks, etc. Now, the thing that is very interesting is that the ATV has vertical and straight boost. For me, this is giving more credence to this being real, because when you think about this logically, we're going to need extremely versatile vehicle to handle all the different types of terrains. And the only way to get around some of this will be having a vertical and a straight booster. So I would almost expect the vehicle to have almost like a jetpack kind of system, giving us a mean to potentially jump over some of the difficult obstacles and terrains that we've come across. I don't know how that will exactly work and be implemented, but let's see how it turns out. Leaker also mentions that the vehicles will be indestructible, and you could see how this vehicle edition could then somehow be modded to be like a little spaceship that you could have on your ship. It just opens so many different possibilities. The leaker also mentions that the vehicles aren't buggy and work rather well, so we'll have to see about that. That leads me to be a little suspicious about the validity of this leak, but let's find out. The last thing they mention is that there is no fuel requirement for the vehicles, and depending on the vehicle, some of them might have environmental protection, others won't. But you can see how this will open the door for Bethesda to really capitalize on their creation by selling a bunch of different vehicles. So expect that to be coming. However, I hope given this leak, we can really get an idea of what this will mean for the modding community and how we can then use this framework to really create some insanely unrealistic, realistic mods, whether it be a horse or a rhino or riding different kinds of creatures, adding little mini ship that you can land from a ship in space or a space station could open the Pandora's box here. So some extremely exciting news. This could be coming so soon because I've been waiting and looking for even a little niggle or a wink from Bethesda, giving us some indication of the next details on Shattered Space, and this would make a lot of sense to make a big bang with introducing vehicles and then also giving us a release date for Shattered Space, driving the excitement. I'm expecting this potentially within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner, as we're fast approaching the 1-year anniversary for Starfield. This is going to be a pivotal moment for Starfield as it continues to be modded into insanity, and it's only just getting started. Before we go, what are your thoughts on vehicles in Starfield? How do you think it's going to manage the huge variety of terrains, planets, moons? Will you be willing to pay for some of the different vehicles? Another thing that jumps to mind is that having weapons on vehicles, that does sound really cool and a lot of fun. Now imagine if we could have our NPCs in vehicles as well with weapons. I mean, that kind of completely changes the experience, but there is so many questions on how this is all going to work. Let me know your questions, your thoughts. It'd be cool to see something like a hovercraft or different types of technology behind the vehicles, but we shall see. I mean, how about a mech to start off with? That'd be pretty sweet. So I thought I'd bring this epic news to you. Stay tuned. We'll be covering more and more of this as this story develops. So keen for this. It's going to be epic. Thanks very much. I'll catch you next time. Cheers. The link will be in the description as well, so if you want to have a look at the original post, and if all this turns out to be true, well then watch out for the epic return of Starfield like never before. It really is a ship just getting started.